All right, so we avoided a national railroad workers' strike today. The White House helped union leaders and the railroad industry come to a tentative agreement after 20 hours of negotiations. But the back and forth negotiations, well, they go back years, with workers demanding higher pay and better working conditions. Any deal that gets done from here, though, still needs to be ratified. But it does look like trains will continue on tracks across the country. Had there been a strike beginning tomorrow, though, it would likely have been devastating. It would have devastated railroad service from coast to coast, including right here in Idaho, because, well, mostly our ag industry with major commodities in bulk, like our famous potatoes, well, they take rides on trains. Here's Joe Paris.
As a national railroad strike appears to be off, the value of railroad infrastructure is now on display. As union workers had worked with the railroad industry to get better pay and working conditions, there were real fears that significant sections of America's railroad system would be shut down for worker strikes. At home in Idaho, a railroad strike would have created severe implications.
A railroad strike, agricultural commodities depend on the railroad. You know, you can't switch everything from railroad to truck overnight. That doesn't happen. And the big bulk commodities like, wheat, potatoes, corn, soybeans, et cetera, like that are moved by rail can't just be switched to truck overnight.
Sean Ellis is a spokesman for the Idaho Farm Bureau Federation. Ellis explains a railroad strike would have had far-reaching consequences.
The implications, what I heard, would be far-reaching. They would be, I don't want to say catastrophic, but they would have been significantly bad. It would have affected everything. It would have affected every segment of agriculture. Keep in mind, Idaho's a landlocked state. We produce a lot of different ag commodities. We don't have a huge population. Virtually everything we produce here in Idaho is shipped out. So we're heavily dependent on transportation.
Another issue a railroad strike would have created in Idaho, supply lines into the gem state.
We also get a lot of, inputs for farmers and ranchers like fertilizer. Those are shipped in. So you have a double whammy there. You can't ship anything out, and you can't ship anything in to keep growing food. So yeah, it would have been, I don't think anyone knows the extent of the impact, but it would have been very significant.
If railroads become unviable for shipping and receiving products because of a strike, trucks on roads would have to be the next option. But that is an option that pales in comparison to railroad infrastructure.
There's no real substitute for moving agricultural goods. Trucks can only move a small percentage of the big bulk ag commodities that are moved. There's no substitute at the moment for that.
The timing of a prospective deal to avoid a strike is also huge for Idaho. The strike would have been at a crucial harvest time for many gem state ag operations.
It would have had a huge impact. And keep in mind that Idaho is an agricultural state. We lead the nation in a lot of different categories. We produce a lot of potatoes, wheat, barley, corn, and dairy products that are shipped by rail. It would have had a large negative impact on Idaho agriculture.
If Idaho operations were unable to ship their products out, they would be stuck holding on to their crops and products with the potential of seeing it spoil. That's millions of dollars left on the table. On
an average year, we produce $8.5 billion with a B dollars worth of agricultural commodities in Idaho. And like I said, virtually all of those are shipped out. So a national railroad strike would have paralyzed Idaho agriculture. And so if it truly has been averted, that would be, welcome news, a big blessing to Idaho agriculture.
So what does a tentative agreement mean here in terms of avoiding a railroad strike? Well, it is good news, but the deal here, it still needs to be ratified by what's called the rank and file. As you can imagine, the top leaders of the unions, they were the ones that were negotiating and they came to a deal with the industry. However, if it's not approved by the rank and file, and there's no guarantee that'll happen, you would have another issue. You would have the situation where it looked like we could see a strike. But Brian, at this time, at 5:10 here on Thursday afternoon, it looks like the national railroad strike will not happen. There's a strong belief that the deal that they agreed to late last night, early this morning, that President Biden helped work on, there's a belief that this will go through and it'll be an extensive deal that would probably avoid any type of issues like this for many years to come. But until the rank and file ratify it, it's not a done deal.
So we can still send out our smoky potatoes around the rest of the country.
That's right. Your smoky potatoes, you can send them all the way to New York.
Excellent. Thank you, Joe.